First question, let's start with Tesla. And reading some of the notes you shared with us, I mean, ultimately, you do think it's fair that its value has increased significantly over the last 18 months?
Absolutely. I think if you look back at COVID was very kind to companies that were young, fast-growing, and were flexible. And if you're building a company to be a perfect winner from COVID, it would have been Tesla. So I think it's not. I think it's quite clear that Tesla is one of the winners from COVID. That said, though, at $1 trillion, you're pricing in some incredible success into that market cap.
For sure, though I guess we're all also aware that traditional valuation metrics have never really applied to that company. And is it the case that as long as the news flow and the headlines coming from the company continue to come out in the right direction, that this is more of a momentum stock than a valuation stock?
Let me correct you there. Pricing metrics have never worked. So if you use PE ratios or EV to sales, Tesla's always looked expensive. But it's always about valuation. The question is how big you think the story will get. So I think the reality is that if you believe that Tesla is fairly valued, you're also believing that Tesla can sell $1 trillion. I mean, the revenues will rise to $1 trillion in a decade. The margins will be 16%. And the reality is there is a plausible pathway there. They have to make Tesla one of the greatest companies in the face of the earth, but there are people who are true believers. But at the same time, at the moment, Tesla is a mood and momentum stock. It's driven by near-term forces, which have nothing to do with that. I mean, right now, it's Elon Musk's decision to sell stock that might be driving what's happening on a day-to-day basis. But there is value in the company. The question is how much that value is.
How about Rivian, which went up another 15% today? It's been up every day it's gone public. This is now a $130 billion stock that doesn't have sales. So how do you even do valuation math there?
If I were a conspiracy-minded person, I'd say Elon Musk invented Rivian to make Tesla look cheap. I mean, the fact is relative to Rivian, every company in the face of the earth is cheap. I'm trying to get my head wrapped around how to justify this number. And there are two things I can think of. One is, in addition to being in the electric car business, which right now gives you a boost, it's the Amazon stake. There's this magic of having Amazon involved in your company that seems to push up the market cap. The other, I think, is a fear of missing out. For those people who look at Tesla at $1 trillion and say, I wish I'd bought Tesla 10 years ago, Rivian seems to be the next train leaving the station. I think it's a mistake to do it that way. But that doesn't stop investors from jumping on what they think will be the next Tesla.
Do you think that people are assuming that all of these new EV stocks will take 100% of auto market share in the next 5 or 10 years, or simply that any EV maker is going to benefit, and in fact the traditional names could benefit too? I mean, it's odd to see quite so many of them working and it not hinder any of the rivals at the same time.
No, my fear is not that they're building in 100%, but 150% of market share. That's my real concern. Is not only are they believing that every car sold will be an electric car and that the traditional automakers will disappear, but if you add up the expected revenues you will need from these remaining electric car manufacturers, the question is, who's buying all these cars? I mean, in a sense, you're almost building in the expectation that people will buy twice as many cars 10 years from now as they will do now. And if you bring in automated driving and the other trends, it should be pushing in the other direction. We should need fewer cars, not more cars. So I think there's this big market delusion that's driving all this pricing. And people are not thinking through whether these companies can all coexist, even if the market is as successful as they think it's going to be.